On this video, I'm going to show you how to do an emergency stop. So there may be a number of reasons why you might need to do an emergency stop. Either a pedestrian's run out in front of your car, another driver's made a mistake, or you've made a mistake and you suddenly realize that you need to stop quickly. So I'm going to show you how to do it in a safe way so that you can avoid getting into a collision. So first I'm going to show you the wrong way of doing it. So if you imagine you're driving along and then an emergency situation has occurred and you stop suddenly, if you press your clutch down first and then brake, you see the car traveled quite a long way there before it actually came to a stop. That's what you don't want to do, because if you were to do that and somebody was right in front of you, you're not going to stop the car in time. What you want to do instead is press the clutch after you brake. So let's just make sure that it's safe before I drive on. So if I'm driving along now, then we're going to imagine an emergency has occurred and then something in front of me is there. So instead of pressing the clutch first, I'm going to brake first quite hard and then clutch down afterwards. Then once I've done that, I'm going to secure the car, put my handbrake on, and then get into neutral, and then I can relax my feet after that. So you notice the difference there. When I pressed the brake first, the car stopped much quicker. It was a lot more violent in the car, but that's what you want, because you want to stop the car as quickly as possible. Don't brake too softly either. I'm going to show you when people brake too softly, it doesn't work as well. Even if you press the clutch after, I'm going to show you what I mean. So if I'm driving along and then an emergency has happened, but then if I brake too softly, see the car still traveled quite a long way before it came to a stop. The aim of this exercise is to stop the car as soon as possible in a safe way. So if I'm driving along now, then an emergency has occurred. So an emergency is happening now, I'll brake and then put my clutch down. Notice as well, I kept my hands on the steering wheel, both of them. Now once I've come to a full stop, I can go into neutral. I applied my handbrake first and go into neutral, and then I can relax. If you're in a driving test situation, the examiner is going to pull you over and then explain to you that they want you to do an emergency stop. This one's a bit different because this one's done in a controlled environment, in a controlled way, where it's not you that's deciding when to stop, it's the examiner telling you when to stop. So they'll pull you over and then they'll explain to you that shortly they'll like you to carry out an emergency stop exercise, at which point they'll get you to drive on as normal, and then they'll say the word stop. And once you hear that word, you can imagine that someone's running in front of your car and you're going to stop the car as quickly as possible. So imagine if you're in a driving test now, the examiner will tell you to drive on as normal. So right now we're on the right side, so I'm going to start off and finish my checks over to my left side so I can come out safely. And then they'll just get you to drive as normal. So imagine this road is a normal road, 30 miles an hour. I'm getting to second already. You won't know when they're going to tell you to stop, but they'll look in the mirrors and check, and then they'll say the word stop, at which point you want to brake really hard, then clutch down, handbrake on, neutral, and then come off the pedals and relax for a second. And then they'll tell you to drive on again when you're ready, in which case you want to get your car prepared by going into first gear, clutch down, going into first, and then do your checks now, because things could have changed by the time you stopped. Make sure it's safe, and then you can drive on if it is, by checking the mirrors as you're doing that. A mistake that a lot of learners make is once they've come to a stop and then they've got the car secured, the examiner will tell them to drive on again, but because they're so excited, they forget to check. They just do maybe a little mirror check and then drive on. This is not going to be good enough for your driving test, or even just for general. You want to be making sure you check all your surroundings before you move off. If you do that on your driving test, you will get a fault. Also, you don't have time to check your mirrors. You might see me check a little glance every now and again before I stop, just because I'm the only person in the car here. So I'm checking to make sure it's safe. But if I was with an examiner, they would have checked the mirrors for me. I wouldn't have checked the mirrors. But if I was in a driving test, the examiner will check the mirrors to make sure that it's safe before asking me to stop, and then I don't need to worry about the mirrors. With this emergency stop, there's no time for you to check your mirrors. Your main aim is to stop the car as quickly as possible so you don't hit whatever's in front of you.